guys, we're out here doing a survival trapping course today, the Sigma 3 Survival School. And basically what I want to show you today is how to make a large-scale figure 4 deadfall for taking larger game. This style of trap will take anything probably up to coyote size. Remember, when you're doing anything with deadfalls, that approximately about 3 to 4 times the weight of whatever you're trying to trap is how heavy your deadfall needs to be. So the first step in creating this large-scale figure 4 is to basically find you a couple of trees that are fairly close together so that we can basically have something to mount our deadfall against, so that we got a supporting structure. Now you can do it without that. You can basically just have 4 stakes instead of the 2 here. But what we're going to do is we're going to place our deadfall in here with our trigger over in the back. And what we've done right here is created a kind of what I'd call a bait hooch. You know, animals are pretty smart. So what we've done around the base is added rocks, and we've made it pretty sturdy, because raccoons are essentially, they're pretty smart little characters, and they will figure out how to beat your traps. So we want to make sure that the base is pretty secure so that the animal doesn't just easily come in and bypass by, you know, knocking the sticks out of the way and crawling right in to get the bait. And what we're going to do right now is go ahead, and we've cut our deadfalls. We're going to set these in, and then we're going to build our figure 4. And then we throw our bait back in there, and then we'll come back and show you, the next step. The next step, after you get, your little hutch built and you pound your stakes in on the back side, is go ahead and cut you a couple of large deadfalls. And a good bushcraft saw can take care of this for you pretty quickly. You'd be surprised how quickly it'll cut down a tree of this size. If you don't have a bushcraft saw, then you need to find something that's around that'll work for you, either laying on the ground, or you can lash together sticks and use rocks to increase the overall weight on it. One thing that we had to do that I don't typically do on this trap is, since we couldn't get the stakes quite close enough to slam up to the tree, we added these in on both sides just to make sure that we've got a tight fit, because it's extremely important that this base piece back here is very stable, because when you set that sensitive figure 4 up there under a lot of weight like we're doing, it has a tendency to want to rock around and move on you, and it can be difficult to set. And in a windstorm or something like that, it would knock your trap over if you didn't have this properly lashed up. So right now we're carving our figure 4, and we're going to give you a close-up shot of that. I'm not going to break down all the individual carvings. You can see it from the overall picture. There's a million videos out there on figure 4s. We want to show you this modification so that you can start to take larger game with the figure 4, because that's really the only thing I like that trigger for. I don't like it for smaller game. If I'm going for smaller game, I'll use something like a Paiute that has a more sensitive trigger. So we'll show you the close-up, and then we'll set this thing and show you some of its general purposes. So this is essentially your trap parts right here. You've got your top piece, which is your fulcrum. It's got a number 7 notch in it. That hooks right into your top piece right here. And then you have your trigger right here. And basically what we did was we took a short trigger stick and we attached a longer stick to it so that we could extend the length of our overall trigger. And you can leave the branches on there. That makes it better overall, so that the animal's more likely to trip it. And now we're going to set this and show you how it works. So here's our completed trap. We've got our deadfall, we've got our little bait hooch back here. We made sure that we staked it off really well, and we've got our figure 4 off to this side over here. And instead of having like a typical long figure 4 trigger stick, basically what we did to extend it was tied a short little branch with limbs still on it, so that it would be difficult for the animal to be able to try to squeeze through here without hitting one of these branches. It's a pretty hair trigger. You want to make sure that your base isn't too tall. This is your base piece, and you want to make sure that it's really flat. And what the animal's going to do is they're going to smell your bait, and I typically like to leave a little appetizer out front for them. I'll use guts or fish, or when you're out doing some other you have a survival priorities timeline. You're not going to start with a large trap like this when you first get out. This is after you've kind of built yourself up. You've already been feeding yourself with other traps. And you start, you know, making all these traps larger and larger in order to procure bigger and bigger game. So you're going to have guts. You're going to have different types of bait around. And basically I'll take some guts or some fish and put them out here, and then I'll put a good amount in there. And the animal will come up here and he'll eat the bait, and then he'll want some more, and then he'll come in and he'll basically just hit the trigger, falls on his head. And you want to angle the trigger to where it's a little bit farther back. And I do typically like a little bit longer trigger stick with a little bit more branches on there just to make it a little bit more foolproof. But you get the idea for educational purposes. We don't actually set these things to, you know, crush real animals. We do know that they work. You know, I do test things. But, you know, just make sure that your trigger stick is all the way across and that everything is really, really secure. You don't want any kind of wobble action out of this main deadfall, because any kind of wobble action, wind catches it, it can, you know, blow over in the night or whatever, and that's going to prevent you from getting food. You know, this is just one of the many trapping techniques that we teach out here. If you've got an interest in learning survival training of any type, you know, look us up. Come out and check out some of our courses. And if you support what we're doing, please help support us by subscribing. Thanks.